Now that we know there is a more effective and friendlier alternative to the old-fashioned win-lose negotiation technique, we can learn more about how to be great at interest-based negotiations. Before we jump into strategies to expand the pie, we should talk briefly about the common misconceptions and errors related to interest-based negotiations. Okay, first, people tend to enter negotiations believing the interests of their own party are entirely incompatible with the desires of the other party. This is overwhelmingly often not the case and only hinders the negotiation. When both parties miss out on the shared value they can gain, they end up reaching what is known as a lose-lose agreement. As you can tell, this is the exact opposite of what we want. Second, the notion that negotiations are inherently a redistribution of fixed resources, or for me to win, you must make a sacrifice type of relationship is dangerously engraved in people's minds and reduces flexibility a lot. You must try and remember the pie is not fixed, and a tartlet and a cupcake can also be added to the table. If you manage to sidestep this cognitive obstacle, you will be more effective in developing an accurate understanding of what is actually on offer and what the other party's interests are. And finally, reaching a win-win is not a must. If you enter the negotiations determined to reach a win-win, you will put unnecessary pressure on the conversation. In addition, you should leave any urge to compromise at the door. Concessions are an element of win-lose negotiations. Here, we're trying to create a new pie, not divide a few pieces. And be careful not to reveal your BATNA. Revealing it might work during distributive negotiations, but has no value here. Cooperation isn't equal to laying all your cards on the table, right? Great. We know the no-nos for interest-based effectiveness. Now let's talk about strategies for expanding the pie and adding those extra desserts. Probably the most crucial technique for successful interest-based negotiations is perspective taking. This is the most straightforward way to understand your partner's interests and where they're coming from. If you are successful, you will be much more informed and better at solving problems mid-negotiation or answering their attempts to set an anchor. So, how do you go about facilitating perspective taking? Simple. Ask diagnostic questions. You can try with the W questions that invite an open response, like what, why, when, where, and their non-W cousin, how. These provide a non-threatening way to get information, unlike closed-ended questions, which often inspire defensive behavior and encourage the other party to misrepresent facts or even lie. But remember, negotiations are a back-and-forth process, and this means you must provide your partner with knowledge about what you're after and what your priorities are. It's only fair, right? And not just that, if you disclose information about your party, it will signal that you are approaching these negotiations openly, which will invite the principle of reciprocation to enter play. If your counterpart still hasn't shared information, chances are they will now. In addition to probing with diagnostic questions, it is also very important to engage in active listening. This allows you to make deductions about your counterparty's interests, even if they're not being completely open with you. And more importantly, you will get a sense of what their preferences are and how they rank. Another valuable thing you can do is try to make package deals. Package deals are useful for two reasons. They allow the negotiating parties to come up with trade-offs between individual issues, and they make reaching an impasse much less likely. Apart from package deals, you can also aim to think about different offers you can make that hold the same value for you and make them simultaneously. This both creates the impression of flexibility and makes it easier and more likely to uncover mutually beneficial issues, useful and not super difficult. The only ingredient you need is, and we know you've never heard this one before, preparation. A major difference between interest-based and distributive negotiating is that in interest-based situations, the fact that both sides don't want the same things can be exploited. In fact, it is encouraged. This drives finding issues to trade to find mutual value. For example, there is a package deal on the table consisting of X, Y, and Z issues. You are interested in Z, whereas your party wants to get X and Y. You can choose to trade off X and Y to gain Z, effectively reaching an integrated win-win decision. Neat, huh? And if trade-offs are not happening immediately, We can give you a hint that should facilitate the process when assessing and expanding the issues on the table. Try to focus on the ones that are highly valuable to you, and not so much for your bargaining partner. Point it out. Voila! A possible trade-off should emerge.